All right. It is the ellipses, not the ellipsi. But remember, it still is the total ellipse of the heart. Well, we're on video, so it's gonna be on there. So I hope that people are enjoying this. So ellipse is a lot like a circle, but instead of you having like with a circle, you have like one nail or one pin in the middle, and then you just go around that object. Where with an ellipse, it's like you have 2 points, and you can draw all the way around with those two kind of anchor points as far as like if you're inflexible string, if it essentially is going to go all the way around. Whenever you have an ellipse, okay, there's two different ways that it can go. It's either going to go horizontally, where it's going to look like it basically looks like a football. It's like the football's laying on the ground, where it's going the long end, and then the other end where it's basically vertically. Okay? An ellipse, whenever we graph it or whenever we solve this or do anything with it, it's not going to be diagonal. It's either going to run horizontally or it's going to run vertically. Okay? With that, you have your center, just like you have your center with a circle. Okay? It's dead middle. Okay? When you have, the only thing that's going to change, you have really a vertex, and then you have what's also called a covertex. Okay? Because it's an ellipse and it's not continuously around like it is a circle, and you might add this, you have the covertex, which is basically on the minor axis side or the short side. Okay? Because if you notice between the two circles, so like even if I would write it on the tall one, I would have the covertex here and here. Your vertex always goes with the long side, so the side that's further away from the center. Your covertex is always going to go to the short side or the side that's closer to the center. Same way with your major and your minor axis. Your major axis is always your long side. Your minor axis is always your short side, regardless of if it's horizontal or it's vertical. Now, one thing that's not on the picture that we do have is what is called a foci. It's a focus that basically it's somewhere, usually it's always going to be on the major axis. What we have a foci here and there. Same way if it is a horizontal. The focus or the foci, so whenever we talk about both of them, are going to be inside of it. Then here, standard form of an equation of an ellipse. You have two forms. Okay? Standard form, it is what it is, but notice that between the two, there are a few things that you have to have. Okay? You always have a center if you have a center at the origin. If you don't have a center at the origin, then it's going to look a lot like a circle, okay, in terms of our H and our K. But this is whenever your center is at the circle, because there's no translation or transformation of anything, because we're not moving it left or right. Okay? So if there's not anything that's being added to our X value or our Y value up top, then it's just going to have a center at the origin. Okay. Notice one thing that you have to have is it will always be equal to 1. Okay? It should never be equal to anything but 1. And then the last thing that here, A is always bigger than B. No matter what. Okay, that's the reason why we have the two different formulas where A is with the X and B is with the Y, and then in the other case, A is with the Y and B is with the X. Okay? Because whenever we have any of these, if your A value or your bigger number is with the X value, then it's going to be the long way. Okay, it's going to be horizontal. If your A is with the Y value, then it's going to be vertical. Okay, it's going to be basically standing on its end. So your bigger number with X, it's going to be longer. It's going to be basically horizontal. It's going to be like an egg sitting down, okay, or laying on the counter. Whereas if your A or your bigger number is with the Y, it's going to be like a football standing up on its end. So whenever we have our points, okay, of any sort of ellipse, you are essentially going to have 7 points that you will put in there, or you will figure in. Every one will have 7 points. Okay? You will always have a center. Okay? So if you think about it, you will have one center point. You will have 2 vertices. You will have 2 co-vertices, okay, which is your short side, and then you will have 2 foci, okay, or your focus points. Okay, your foci are, so these 2 points here are those points inside on your major axis. How do you find those 2 points? A squared minus B squared. So the bigger number minus the smaller number squared, and then taking the square root. It's essentially the opposite of Pythagorean theorem. Pythagorean theorem is what? A squared plus B squared equals C squared. For the foci, it's going to be C squared equals A squared minus B squared.